Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Alvin again, and this time I'm going to be doing a comparison video between Abbey Road One and Albion One, and it's actually a question that I've been seeing quite a bit. I even had a question on it in my channel, so I thought I'd cover it with some of my thoughts. So let's jump right into it. All right, here we go, the biggie. Albion One versus Abbey Road One orchestral foundations. Let's have a look at them. Just from the description product info from Spitfire, it is 87.5 gigabytes of uncompressed size for Albion One. I'm not sure if size is really that important for you for your decision making. And also keep in mind that it is requiring a contact player. So if you're used to contact and you love native instruments, other than that, both plugins actually work just fine on either Mac or PC. Nothing really to compare and contrast there. Okay, and we have Abbey Road One here, and it is 69.6 gigabytes in size. Now, the difference with Abbey Road One is that it is a newer library that's come out by Spitfire, and it does have Spitfire's own dedicated plugin. Some people really love it, and others have voiced concern, or there's been some bugs initially. But I think a lot of that has shaken out, and I personally have not had much issues with Spitfire plugin. Okay, so cost comparison. Both libraries are for full price when it's not in a sale with Black Friday or anything like that, is at $449 USD. So that's pretty even. Room reverb comparison. I think this is probably one of the biggest selling points of Abbey Road One. Obviously, with the name like Abbey Road One, it's really selling the fact that it's recorded at Abbey Road Studio One. It's a larger space, it's wide and tall, it's almost 5,500 square foot, and it does very much sound grand, and it is definitely the biggest reverb and longer delay or decay out of the two. So the tails are just wonderful. Sometimes some people might not like that, but I, for one, found it very inspiring, and there's a kind of a magical quality to it. Maybe because we've been so conditioned with, films of the past. I actually created a video about Abbey Road Studio One. If you're interested about that, check out some of the other videos in the Season 1 playlist. Okay, and then there's Albion One. So it's a little bit older. It's 10 years old, I believe, as of last year, 2020. We're in 2021 right now. It is recorded at Air Lyndhurst Hall. The hall is a bit smaller, but it does have high ceilings, and therefore the early reflections from the walls are a bit sooner, but then there's the high ceilings to still create that sense of bass and reverb tails. That's between the two of them. As you can tell, I've already put check marks here so what I'll be doing is putting check marks around the library that basically has won my favor. And here it's a little cheeky to start off with, where both of them had check marks, so they both kind of win. They still sound amazing, but I'll give the edge definitely to Abbey Road Studio One with that space, that larger space. I like that. Okay, round robin comparisons. This is where every time you strike a note, there is kind of a rotation through with the different samples for that exact same note. So in sampling, they sample that same note for that instrument over and over again. And for Abbey Road One, it has up to 5 samples, and on Albion One, it has up to 4 samples. And this is what I found from the Spitfire Audio support site. Just based on that raw fact here, Abbey Road One takes that as the favored, or one that won in this category. Dynamic layers comparison. So this is where if you are pressing on a note, or whatever note you're in for that instrument, there's going to be several samples that are taken at different dynamic kind of levels. Let's say you're going from pianissimo to fortissimo, and all the gradual increases along the way of how hard you're pressing on the strings, if you're using a stringed instrument like a violin or a cello, or if you're using your brass, how hard you're exerting kind of air and getting the most sound of that instrument. So there's a lot more layers in the Abbey Road One. So what that means is that if you are raising or decreasing your mod wheel, your CC1 modulation, it will be a bit more gradual and smoother for the sound, and it doesn't seem as though you are definitely using a sample library. So Albion One has up to 3, as you can see here. And I also found it, again, very interesting that they chose the words up to. So that means some maybe only have 2. I'm not sure what that story is, but to my ears, this hasn't been a huge difference that I can hear. But with that said, I always love it when we can get closer and closer to what it sounds like with the real thing. So Abbey Road One takes the check mark for that. Okay, another huge advantage Abbey Road One has over Albion One is the fact that the partnership that Spitfire has with Abbey Road Studios, in that they were able to use a lot of the microphones in their microphone cupboard, I guess they've been calling it, that they've collected over the years. So some really expensive, really beautiful vintage microphones have been utilized, and as you can see here, it's kind of a amazing amount that they've provided for you for all the instruments. So you can really pick and choose the tone that you want, whether you want something a little bit more processed or you want something more vintage. So that kind of affects the color and the EQ, if you will, and also how much it picks up the ambience of the room. Between the two of them, definitely this is slam dunk. It's the microphone selection and control that you have with Abbey Road One. Okay, moving on to the strings comparison here. So as far as the articulations that are available, we have the concertinos for longs, the trems, your standard long sustain notes, available on both. You also have the shorts where you have spiccato, pizzicato. I believe Abbey Road One also has the collegno that's not really shown here. I think if you strike the spiccatos hard enough at the top of the velocity, it actually becomes a collegno. So that's pretty comparable. Now, this is the big one, is the legato. I know. Everyone's been talking about this over and over again, that Abbey Road Studio One does not come with legato, and that actually was a big thing where people were just deciding that, it wasn't for them because it was missing that piece for an ensemble patch or an ensemble library. So that is definitely a consideration. The other thing that Albion One outshines Abbey Road One in my mind, it's very slight, but it also has string runs if that's important to you. Now, I personally don't use the string runs from Albion One, but I did play around with it just for the purpose of this video, and I thought, yeah, they were kind of fun, and actually I was beating myself up for why haven't I played with it some more before, because it could be quite usable. Because string runs are always kind of nice in that it is actually all done, and you're not kind of manipulating and creating notes to try and simulate a run. It's all actually properly done by the musicians. So that is, I think, overall, because of the legato and the completeness there, and a little bit more with the string runs, I'll have to edge this one over to Albion One. Okay, on to brass. And as you can see here, they're very similar in terms of the low brass side of things. Actually, I'll take that back. The brass on Abbey Road One, to me, sounds amazing. I think that's one of the shining kind of sections when you're comparing strings, woods, and brass. I think the brass really shines on Abbey Road One, especially the shorts for the brass. The fanfares sound amazing, and they sound very close to some of those iconic classic films that have been recorded at Studio One, like Star Wars. And the Abbey Road One has tenutos, marcatos, which Albion does not. And they also come with swells. Now, swells for me are kind of hit and miss. I don't really use them, as I find them hard to kind of match in tone or the right timing. Maybe I'm not doing it properly, but if that's important for you, it is there. And they have short, medium, and long kind of lengths for those available. The other thing is, instead of just having high, mid, and low, like Albion One, Abbey Road One does specifically isolate trumpets and horns. So for Albion One, when it's saying high or mid, there could be a bit more of a blend between the trumpets and horns where there's some overlap there. And that's maybe a benefit on Abbey Road One that you can specifically pick. So with all that said, even though there's legato on Albion One, which is definitely missing in Abbey Road One. There's only really longs, and I would still lean towards Abbey Road One. Once again, I think it's one of the shining sections. Okay, moving on. Woodwinds. So the Woodwinds have high and low are the breakdown on Abbey Road. And once again, just like the brass, there's marcato, tenuto, and swells that aren't available in Albion One. However, Albion One has the legato patches for high, low, and full range. So, and there's also a high arranged, which has a mix of, I believe, oboes and flutes and maybe piccolos in there. I consider this one a tie, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, percussion comparison. So the Abbey Road One has more traditional suite of percussive elements here. For me, the big ones are the timpani, the glock, and xylophone for tuned. Those were very important. The snares are excellent. Actually, all the drums have been quite useful, and again, the reverb and ambience in that space is amazing. So again, I think the percussive elements are also one of the shining sections of this entire library. The Albion One, however, have the Darwin Percussion Ensemble in Easter Islands and Hypertoms, all these fancy names, but they're more geared towards epic cinematic style. So there's booms and hits and whooshes and stuff like that are more tuned towards a hybrid orchestral type of arrangement. With that, there are some traditional legacy patches of cymbals in there. There's the tam-tams and gong sounds as well, but you won't find timpanis, for example, which are a lot of times the bread and butter of classic compositions. Okay, so I consider that a tie. That's really a taste of which flavor you're going for. I think either one, depending on your use case, could work quite well. Okay, articulation and orchestration combo comparison. What does that mean? These are anything to do with combos of instruments that have been done for you, orchestration packages, if you will. In Albion One, we have the legato for brass, strings, and woodwinds. As far as articulations, that's a bonus that you didn't get. And as well, we had the swells, just as a reminder. And there was also some runs here and there that was given. Additionally, for Albion One, we have the brass and low strings with octaves, which Abbey Road One does not have, so that automatically comes recorded with octaves being played. And then also very handy, now the 15 or so orchestration combinations of, sometimes they put woods and strings together, or low brass and low woodwinds together. Things like that blend and sound pretty interesting and pretty handy. I find that quite inspiring and useful, so I actually really like those things on Albion One. As far as Abbey Road One, there's the swells that we talked about for the brass and woodwinds. That's not available in Albion One. There's the tenuto marcato, which I didn't put in this list, and there's a full orchestra that can be loaded pretty easily. Actually, it's the default when I think, or the top of the list when you open up that plugin. And that's pretty handy, pretty fun to play with when you want a full kind of 2D of the entire orchestra. As far as legato or any other kind of articulations that you might want next, the Spitfire Audio folks mentioned that there's going to be a bunch of expansion packs called Film Scoring Selects. I think there's like sparkling woodwinds, low brass, something like that. Anyway, there's two definitely that are already mentioned on their site and should be coming out anytime now. But we expect there's going to be a whole bunch more with legatos, which everyone's been asking for. That all said, on the surface between Albion One and Abbey Road One, I think I'll have to give the edge to Albion One at the moment. Okay, as far as pads, synths, and loops, this is really a non-comparison, if you will, because Abbey Road One does not come with any of those kinds of elements. Albion One does, so there's the Stevenson's Steam synth. A lot of people don't really realize there's something like that there. And there's also the Brunel loops, where there's a bunch of rhythmic patterns and things like that. I think that's a really great demonstration done over the years by Spitfire and Home, showing people how to use that. Yeah, I think this is an obvious one. Winner goes to Albion One, gives it a little bit more value for the package. Okay, here we are. We're at the summary comparison. So this is my personal opinion. Some of it is opinion and some of it is truth in it's missing, or it has this feature that the other one doesn't. So let's start with Abbey Road One. So the pros are the room reverb. I think personally, especially the shorts is where it really shines, when we're talking about fanfares with brass and pizzicatos and things like that. It just sounds exactly like a lot of the films that we know and love that have been recorded there. The mic options, that was the huge cupboard and collection of them that's available to you. Round robins, dynamic layers. So we saw 20% or more layers and round robin samples available on Abbey Road One. There's individual trumpet and horn sections where you can isolate those as opposed to just having it all blended for you. I guess it could also be a detriment if you don't want to mess with that and you just want a sketching tool and go really fast. But yeah, I saw that as a pro on the Abbey Road One side of things. Tuned percussions, I really like the fact that you have your traditional timpani and you have glocks and xylophones on there as well for percussion. Swells, tenuto, marcato for brass and winds. That was really nice in that you can adjust your length of notes and have those extra articulations available to you. Other considerations here. Now, I put considerations on both sides where I thought they're not really benefits over the other library. I think they're just more up to your taste or whether it's valuable for you. For me, the swells, I didn't know whether to put it in the pros or just left a consideration question here. I don't, because personally it's not a value to me. I barely use it. Spitfire plugin versus the Contact plugin. It's still the Contact player still works with Albion One, so it's not like you had to spend extra money to go and use that. However, some people are really happy and love using Contact. I mean, it's been around for quite a long time, and the ins and outs of it, even messing with the back end and stuff like that was important for people. For me, both plugins seem to work just fine, and Spitfire side of things is a little bit newer. It's clean. I do like the layout and how they've done it. Traditional percussion, again, it's up to your flavor profile. It's for percussions a bit more traditional, and on the Albion side, it's a bit more on the Zimmer Epic hybrid side of the fence. Okay, and of course for Albion One, the big pros are that it comes with legato, it has the string runs, orchestration combination patches that I personally found very handy, those 15 of them. The Brunel loops, Steam Synth, that just adds a lot more value if you want some, pads that maybe this is your first library. That could be quite important for you and you actually like the sounds of those. Brunel loop, I barely used any of these things, but it is there if you needed it. And there's also the string ostinatum feature, which I'm not sure if a lot of people knew about this, or I think a lot of us just do our short ostinatos and stuff like that directly with MIDI notes right within, Cubase in your MIDI parts and events there. But it is available within Contact itself as a scripted kind of configuration session that you can say, I want all these eighth notes or triplets and stuff like that right within the player, and it could be pretty fun. I remember using that when I first got Albion about 3 or 4 years ago. Okay, so those are the pros and considerations, so why one wins over the other. Now you'll see here that I haven't really given you a very straight up pick this one over the other decision, and like many things in life, it all depends. So let's start here. So I think who is this for? For students and new composers? Actually, I think the first library you should ever get is not either one of those, Albion or Abbey Road. It's pretty much a no-brainer at this point. BBC Symphony Orchestra, when you're starting with a Discover, but the core, I think, is kind of that perfect level for many folks just starting out. It's a massive value. It is drier sounding than the Albion One or the Abbey Road One, in that they're not recorded in those pretty big rooms. It's in Maida Vale. but it does have a very all-encompassing collection of instruments, and it's a place where you can learn and write in very much detail every instrument and what it can do. It is not an ensemble patch, so you won't get that kind of block chord keyboard player, two hands kind of thing. It's more meant for doing one line at a time. Yeah, consider that. But once again, I think this is a no-brainer. You should start here. Okay, so if you are a mixed genre, I know this, I didn't know what to call this, but if you're a producer or a composer that sometimes just wants to dabble in the orchestral space and you want that modern sound that's more Hans Zimmer leaning as opposed to John Williams side of things, I would go with Albion One, especially if it's going to be probably your one and only orchestral sample library and you don't know if you want more. I think you can go with that and it'll take you a long way. I think a lot of it is the reason why Spitfire have grown so much over the years, in that this is kind of their backbone foundational product that got them skyrocketing into the industry of sales and being able to invest more and more into other libraries. So it's really the bread and butter. Okay, and here we are. So who's Abbey Road One for? I think Abbey Road One fits really nicely for composers who already are invested with a bunch of different sample libraries, either already have them or intend to build a collection. I think Abbey Road One is a good one to add to the arsenal as an ensemble library. But because of things like not having the legato, and I keep mentioning it, people probably will smack me down in the comments or in VI control. But yeah, I mean, it is definitely something that's missing, but we all know that Spitfire is going to be launching more and more expansion packs, or you can pick and choose if you already have something like Cinematic Studio Strings or their Symphonic series or Albion as well already. You can definitely blend that with Abbey Road One, and it would be, well, actually, then you wouldn't be looking at this video. Yeah, or maybe if you even have Albion One already, I think it's still valuable to have Abbey Road One and blend them together and kind of fill in the strengths and weaknesses that each of them have. Yeah, once again, Abbey Road One is more of that John Williams type of sound and Star Wars rather than Hans Zimmer and, you know, the epic hybrid type of cinematic sound. Okay, I hope that was informative and it gives you some sense of why you would pick one library over another, some of the things to consider. A lot of it's a matter of taste and where you are with your collection or your journey as a music producer or composer. Thanks again for watching, everyone. If you found this video informative, I would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button and subscribe and the bell notification so you'll see more videos like this. I'll see you in the next video, and thanks once again.